So here we go with adding some audio this time. Well, after that first game, this is really what I was. I was toast completely. Although this one does have some of that tomato stuff spread on it, which makes it a little bit nicer. But that's fine for you, gentlemen, I guess, or ladies and gentlemen. So looking up for the second game, we came in pretty quick order. It was an early start and straight into the second game. Let's see what the army was that I was actually facing. So here it is. It's a Hittite army on a piece of terrain that, well, pretty much symmetrical in a way. You've got two plantations, both full of ambushes from the Hittites. You've got a little bit of rough, looks like a waterway on the left-hand side as well. So it's, again, kind of difficult for my army to sort of squeeze itself through that gap in the terrain if it's going to attack. Particularly, you can see how wide my two main commands are here. My small command is over to the right-hand side, and what you have, you've got some on sort of the facing my left, you near that waterway, near that bit of terrain, you've got a Hittite command which is composed of medium foot. They're probably going to march into that plantation. Then you've got a big block of heavy chariots in the middle, 4 heavy chariots, and some light chariots on the right-hand side. But it's really that sort of block of medium foot that makes up quite a lot of the army. There doesn't necessarily seem to be anything too problematic here. The army looks a bit little. There must be some more stuff in ambush in there, I guess, in either of those two ambush markers as well, though. And so my army, all I've got to go into there is those 2 Thracians. This side, I think the legions are going to probably have to do it. They can go reasonably well in rough terrain if I'm going to squeeze through the middle. So let's actually have a look at that army in a little bit more detail. So 4 impact elite ordinary general chariots, pretty textbook, and 3 light foot. Most biblical armies seem to have that. 4 light chariot bow, there's no armor there, nothing too exciting. Light horse bow, mediocre. Brilliant general, and then 2 medium spear and a mediocre bow, which I think we will find were hiding in the terrain a bit later on. Then on the final side, another couple of light horse javelin, 4 impetuous medium foot, which is kind of unusual, but but dangerous, certainly to my army. 2 medium foot swords. So here we go. Here's my army squeezing up to that terrain, closing the gap between it, daring the Hittites to come and do something in the middle. The aim clearly is to sort of either go through or block off the terrain and push straight down the middle. And in many ways, try and engage those heavy chariots. They're their strike troops, but once you take them out, there's not a lot they can really do. And a mix of pikemen and spearmen, my own side of chariots is not a bad combo for it. The Galatians, the infantry here, the cataphracts as well, can very happily take on and shove those light horse off the table, or should be able to too. So it's a question of what's going to be in those terrain pieces. And here's looks like my tiny, no, actually this isn't the tiny command, is it? These are the cavalry who come with one of the brilliant generals command running down by the waterway. They're trying to sneak past that bit of terrain, put pressure on the flank of those medium foot, and you can see there that some of their camps there. This is my proper mounted command, screening off the terrain on the other side, and at the same time trying to sneak some light horse down the flank too. So it's a pit drain. It could be a threat to the camp. It's certainly a threat to light infantry or any other light troops there. And if the main troops can start pinning the cavalry, there you go. And here we see all of these infantry, the impetuous ones, who look a little bit Mycenaean, and it must be said, obviously they were close friends of the Hittites, maybe, and some other sort of generic dudes, all lining up, getting into that terrain. It's quite a lot of work for 2 Thracians to do, and sorry, the legionaries are over on this side as well. They're happy to fight people in the open, but they really don't want to go into the rough terrain and have to take them on. So it's a bit of an impasse, but they're impetuous troops. Maybe they'll come rushing out, and if they come rushing out and attack me, happy days. That's exactly what I want to achieve here, really, with this set of guys. And yet, will they come out? I suppose that will be the big question of the game. Well, let's have a look. Let's flick through and see how it develops. So the chariots are sort of expanding out. They're getting ready to, well, I don't know what you'd be really looking to do when you're facing pikemen and cataphracts. I suppose they're probably giving it a go. One on the left looks like it fancies a chance at the bowmen. They're almost there as a bit of a tempting target. Clearly, if they can shoot, that's great. That'll do a lot of damage. Over the flip side, boom, yeah, there are some troops hidden in this wood. I think we saw them in the army list. There's a spearman, a couple of spearmen, some bowmen. Looks like some light horse have tried to be clever in there, which is probably not a good idea in retrospect. I'm just sort of going at them with the Galatians, really. They're tough, they're elite. they're disadvantaged in that terrain, but they're still pretty solid, and they should be better than spearmen. And the rest of the army is just sort of pushing up. So here we go. We've tempted some of these troops to have a go. They've avoided the side chariot. They've sidestepped. They've gone into the pikemen and the spearmen, but with support either side from the chariot and the bow. And my other chariot is desperately rushing to try and get in front of the enemy heavy chariot and save the bowman a little bit later. So, in some ways, I'm pretty happy with this, and you can see it's worked out. There's a couple of yellow hit markers behind those guys. I do need these guys to come out of the wood and face me. Here, my army's sort of starting to push forward. I think the cataphracts have charged away those light chariots. The pikemen are struggling a bit to keep up. And I think the issue here is my eclectic army is now in quite a lot of different groups, all of which need their own pips. The pikemen, the cataphracts, a couple of units of these different types of infantry. I've got the cavalry, I suppose, is a separate command around the other side. But how do we push those chariots much further without clearing out that terrain on the right hand side, I think is the question. Because otherwise those three heavy chariots there are going to start being a quite dangerous force, and if they have a go and they catch my cataphracts isolated, not great. So it looks like they've actually split themselves up though now. So one's gone into the bowman. I wasn't able to intersperse the side chariot in the way. He's been attacked by some light infantry, the ideal opponent for them really, if you're the light infantry or the other player. And these other somewhat oriental flavoured Hittites are coming in to have a go at the blue-hatted pikemen potentially, which again, I'm quite happy with. If I'm picking any troops in my army for those guys to fight, it's the pikemen. There's a risk of it going wrong, but I much prefer the cataphracts to be chasing off, shooting light cavalry. They should be able to shrag off the arrows. There is one more heavy chariot left behind, so if my cataphracts push on much more, they do start to get outnumbered. But unsurprisingly, boom, the side chariot disappears and the heavy chariot overruns the bowman. But my spearmen, who were winning very comfortably against those medium foot, now seem to be on 2 hits. So the medium foot have really dug it out. They've really dug out a good result from this. And okay, one's gone against the pikeman, but that other one's still fighting, which really, I guess I would have been hoping would have wiped them out pretty quickly. So suddenly this actually looks like a bit of a gap in my line. My eclectic random component army seems to become somewhat disjointed, and now there's some very dangerous Chinese-esque Hittites roaming potentially in the back area and having a threat to the flanks of the pike, flanks of the spear, and my lack of reserves, because my reserves are elsewhere, is a bit of a problem. So the Chinese chariots have actually gone into the pike. They've done it. It looks like one's taken a hit, and I'm still trying to force these light chariots past the terrain. One of them has ended up sticking and trying to hold up my spearmen. It looks like my Galatians are a little bit bogged down trying to fight in the terrain as well. And that's actually leaving those cataphracts a little bit isolated as they push forward, and it's allowing the other heavy chariot to threaten them. Really bogged down in that plantation. You would have hoped that my troops would have done better. Here it's a much tidier line. The pike are going forward, but really I'm just waiting for these guys to lose control, lose patience, and come out. And you can see another couple of Hittito-Mycenaean chariots are sneaking around the flank, which is going to mean I'm going to have to do something with those couple of cavalry who are just sort of staring into the plantation against the medium foot, urging them to come out and take on the Thracians at a disadvantage. And it really is, you can just see on the right, that chariot is in such a good position. And I've rallied one of my spearmen hits. He's gone down to a green, but still, that chariot's going to be a problem. And I've now actually ended up with my least maneuverable troops, the pikemen and to an extent the side chariot, in the area where I forced a gap. So here we go. Bit of a catastrophe, really. After what looked like it was an initial first success, the chariots have now done 2 hits on each of my pike units, which, okay, they've got 1 overlap and they've got armor and they're elite, but really my 2-3 at impact pikemen should be doing better than that. That means they're not going to be pushing forward anytime soon at all, which suddenly makes the cataphracts very exposed. Over there, the Galatians are still, with some cavalry, I think, still involved in a bit of a slugging match. There's nothing really evaporated there. That light chariot is still intact, and there's a hit marker on one of my cataphracts too. It's taken hits from shooting, and it's starting to look exposed. This army is really starting to lose that linear formation. So boom, here we go. You've lost a pike unit. It's gone in very, very short order, just to these Hittite Chinese chariots. I'm throwing the remaining side chariot into one of them, just really to keep it occupied, keep it away from my troops over to the left. And it looks like the light chariots have come back. They're doing even more shooting, trying to work with the other heavy chariot to overwhelm just two of those guys. And it doesn't matter about your armor, but if there's 4 to 2, that's always going to be a bit tricky. So let's have a look and see what's kind of coming up next. It really does rely on that side chariot a bit, but boom, suddenly my pikemen have been utterly wiped out in pretty short order. I've chased the light chariots a bit further. I haven't really got another option because that heavy chariot was coming around my flank, but it's still there. I've failed to catch them. Suddenly, I've just got this enormous gap right between those two bits of terrain, and my Galatians are still slugging it away against not particularly great troops in the middle of the woods. Here, I'm just waiting for these guys to come out, and they've refused to. The chariots have actually come around, and I'm having to redeploy my cavalry and my light horse to protect that flank. One of the pikemen has just about caught someone. It takes an age for pikemen to turn around, but he's just about turned around and caught someone who's partially out of the terrain. And in desperation, now that I'm in the flank of that guy, it frees up the pseudo-legionary, because the guy who the pike have hit no longer exerts his op to his front. It's freed up the legionary to whiz out and try and sort of face off the chariot, but that's a bad matchup. If these chariots have run over pikemen before, they can certainly run over a legionary in the open. And what's going to happen here? Well, unless these guys come rushing out, it's tricky. And boom, this was inevitable. My overextended cataphracts get caught front and rear by light chariots, and the heavy chariot are in serious trouble. Is an understatement, really. They're in imminent risk of no longer being on the table. Here, the light chariots have gone all the way around, and I'm having to try and fight them. But it looks like the guys have finally come out of the wood and just wiped out my Thracians in a trice, which frees them up. So, the Thracians were there. This whole fight was going on, but suddenly there's nothing, and it really isolates those two cavalry. The Thracians were supposed to stand, but clearly they didn't, which is, that can happen with the impetuous foot. And suddenly I don't appear to have any troops at all, really. The guys have the Hittitos Hittito-Mycenaeans have waited their time. Here, my cataphracts have been completely swamped by this set of chariots, which again is pretty damn painful. And that really very much is the end. The overextended cataphracts have struggled, and they've not been able to push anybody off the table. And it's been really kind of a traumatic loss, pretty much all the way along the line, with heavy chariots going through pikemen frontally, with my Galatians struggling to get rid of some sort of spearmen, medium spearmen in a wood. My cataphracts never quite catching the enemy like chariots as they evade. A little bit of luck early on but being unable to really dig the medium foot impetuous out of the train as well. And pretty much each time that there was a combat, even ones that I was trying to make happen to trigger, they've all gone pretty badly for me. And the Thracians being wiped out, the pikemen being wiped out, those are ones that I was expecting to go toe-to-toe and do pretty reasonable. So all in all, another catastrophic loss that leaves me on very, very few points going into the third round.
Hello and welcome to the latest Madaxeman.com Army List ADLG podcast, in which I'm joined by Rick